Ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it's great to be back at GMIS after a few years. Delighted to have your company, especially on such a profound topic. The topic at hand that we have today is discussing how to pioneer resilience in technology and leadership in industrial safety. Now, look, we're on the cusp of some very profound changes in the industrial, manufacturing, and petrochemical complex. All three segments are taking advantage of the digital sphere, IoT, big data, advanced analytics, and who better to discuss this than our all-star cast for this fireside chat. So, let me just jump straight on to the heart of the matter after Laura's kind introduction. I'd say, may I start with you, if I may, Courtney? What if we're looking at the opportunities, the approaching horizon versus the opportunities and the risks, because we have bad actors, we have the industrial complex embracing digitization. So highlight some of the risks as well as the opportunities.
Sure. First, thank you for the opportunity to chat about this today. What we really are seeing is the evolution and the convergence of the cyber and physical worlds. And as we think about creating resilience in our cyber physical systems, we have to be very cognizant of how risks can come into those systems and really the emerging range of opportunities in that space. A prime example, in 2017, Microsoft identified the very real ransomware threat posted by NotPetya, and that literally brought the Maersk shipping industry to a halt. The ripple effect throughout the global economy was significant. So as we move to what does this mean for us to think about as we are trying to build a resilient system, there's a couple thoughts. First, we really do want to break down silos between teams that are thinking about the physical threats and the digital threats. That both means in terms of communication and those cross-team collaborations. That is critical to a more secure future and a more secure systems. How do you do that? You ensure also that you're doing joint exercises, that red teaming exercises that we often talk about in the digital environment, and how we are doing the employee training opportunities. Recently at Microsoft, we spent this last year doing significant red team tabletop exercises, thinking about the threats that could happen in the result of elections. How could our data centers potentially both have physical or cyber threats for those who were trying to disrupt global elections around the world? So breaking down those silos, building that collaboration is really critical, and thinking about that on a constant monitoring basis. So what does that mean? How do you invest in those technology systems to continue to be investing in that future state, understanding those threats realistically, and ensuring your employee base understands how to identify them?
Sure. Barbara, if I may turn the floor over to you, Schneider have been huge advocates of smart technologies within the industrial complex. So from your perspective, what kind of risks on the horizon and what kind of opportunities you're noticing on our journey to have a more resilient industrial ecosystem?
It's a very good point. So the more you get connected, the more you get vulnerable. So the way how you store data or protect stored data and how you transfer the data becomes more and more important. And there is about 2,200 cyber attacks every day, and about 72% of all global companies have been attacked now. Also, we are attacked, and I can tell you when you are attacked, it really goes to the most that customers tell you, you are not allowed anymore to our site until you really have clarified this issue. So it becomes a reputational risk similar to safety. So it's really connected together. So that's why we have more chief information security officers in the company. Even here in the region, we have for the big clusters dedicated people. And we have in principle 3 steps how we protect ourselves. First is really educate our employees. You might believe it or not, but 60% of the incidents is because our employees did something they shouldn't have done, like acting to a phishing email, still using USB sticks and these kind of things. Then you need to implement. As you might know, we like manufacturing. We have 200 sites. So each site needs to be protected for this kind of events. And you implement it, you have point-to-point protection, you have how you access the whole thing from a password perspective. And then you need to sustain it, and that's the most difficult part. So you need managed security services on a continuous base, 24/7, to really detect all your vulnerabilities and the new things which are coming up, because these attacks are becoming more and more creative. On the other side, we also want to help to protect our customers. So our customers usually have very good protection on the IT space, but as I said before, OT becomes more and more important, and we provide solutions to our customer, independent if they have installed Schneider Electric or from someone else, their systems, cybersecurity solutions. And we do this together with partners which are providing certain features, and it has been a highly successful business in the last 10 years. And the demand is increasing, obviously.
Sure. You know, we noticed in the opening exchanges and some of the statistics that Laura highlighted when proceedings got underway at this year's GMIS. I think it's worth noting what role can leaders play really in sort of fostering a safety-first culture in terms of being more innovative, not just on the industrial process side, but also to preserve the industrial estate. So from a safety-first approach and from an innovative approach, how do leaders tackle this challenge and lead by example for the employees? I'll keep the floor to you, Barbara. First with you and then on to Courtney.
It's a very good question. So as you know, in Schneider Electric, we have 160,000 employees. 80,000 are in global supply chain, which is the manufacturing part. But then we have 20,000 people in sales, where road safety plays a big role. We have 5,000 service engineers who have to go on a site and make commissionings and also need to work in an environment which is safe. So there is a variety of different people that we need to address in this journey. And one aspect which is really important, the more we develop products which have a higher level of optimization, the safer our operations become. So we are now launching a new range of iOS. It will be produced first in Batam in Indonesia, and we really reached a relatively high level of automation, which makes us much safer in the way how we produce this product. So that's one important aspect. On the other side, another good example is in Monterrey, we have a kind of hub. So we are overlooking the whole North American global supply chain activities. 25,000 employees, 6 billion of goods which are shipped from A to B. We look at weather forecasts, what could happen, and this way, for instance, we could save 73 people when the Hurricane OTS was hitting us, because we knew in advance this will happen. Or we can reroute goods, because we see this is already ongoing. And that's based on really artificial intelligence, and really collecting the know-how that we have, and becomes very powerful, using technology to become safer.
Sure. Courtney, if I'll tweak the question a teensy bit, and put in this way, as a digital leader, what keeps you awake at night? Because we've moved way beyond an errant employee putting a USB stick into the plant control system. The challenge and the problems are way more complex these days.
It's true. You asked the difficult question, what keeps me up at night? The reality is that real-world challenges impact the safety of all of our systems now. What keeps me at night is, would a terrorist or violent attack anywhere around the world result in content being distributed across our services in the online ecosystem, causing future harm? So how do we build in this as a kind of cultural, as a leadership culture across our company? Microsoft really thinks about our work across 4 what we call trust domains. We talk about responsible AI, privacy, cybersecurity, and my space, digital safety. So it's my team's responsibility day in, day out to really build a culture of safety by design with engineering teams around the world. What does that mean? That means teaching product leaders and engineers how could their features be misused by bad actors that want to exploit and cause harm. How do you build them into think about that way? Build that into how they are designing resiliency in that product design, that safety by design. Now that needs to be coupled with innovation. That's not stifling innovation. We need to be launching these products to solve real-world problems, understanding the adversarial nature. So those are the healthy conversations day in, day out that we lead with our engineering teams across the company. And then at the core, we go back to how does every employee wake up and think about this? And honestly, our leadership on top mentioned that we really need to be thinking about security first right now. So I just went through the performance reviews of all my employees in the last month, and every single one of them has to talk about how they're preserving security in their day-to-day jobs. exactly as you mentioned. How are they trained in understanding how phishing attacks could come by email, to what it means to design products really with safety? Building that in at the core cultural level is what I think leaders need to be thinking about day in, day out. The reality is, as you articulated so well, the harm to the reputation of a company from a cyber attack is equal to a physical attack in these days. How do we understand and deeply build the security to build our resilience throughout the ecosystem? Any vulnerability is all of our responsibility.
And let me add to me the element of role model. I think as leaders we are role models, and really addressing non-safe situation is a key task. So you're sitting with a sales representative in the taxi or somewhere, and the driver is looking at his mobile and not on the road. That's exactly the moment where you should address it. And I think that really makes then a difference. Also, when you start an agenda, you talk first about safety. And that's for me a really important element, similar like you do in your performance appraisals.
Absolutely. I think it kind of ties us up to my next question, which is the challenge is huge. It can't be tackled by the private sector alone, although people would say, you know, like everything else in this world, leave cybersecurity to the free markets. But it is a question in the back of everybody's mind. How do folks such as yourselves in very different private sector spheres collaborate with governments to make things happen? So, you know, perhaps Courtney first, if you want to have first stab.
Sure. I think this is evolving rapidly right now. The truth of the matter is, in the technology industry, and Microsoft really had led the way, that we do believe voluntary collaboration, multi-stakeholder collaboration, is key to addressing some of these really challenging issues of safety. We across industry have been doing that for years in the basic voluntary ways of signal sharing. What's a threat look like? What's a vulnerability look like on one platform? How could that signal intelligence help us inform our resilience on another platform? We do believe, and we're tackling these challenges, and we've spoken about the adversarial nature of these challenges. It's best when you have a multi-stakeholder collaboration in a trusting environment to have open and honest discussions about what are vulnerabilities from the public sector to the private sector and the repercussions they can have. Collaborating and hearing from frontline national security agencies around the world, from frontline law enforcement, is critical to how we think about advancing safety. We've done that informally, but we're seeing the more resilient is building effective, long-standing organizations. I serve as chair of the Global Internet Forum on Counterterrorism that brings together experts from government, from civil society and academia to inform online platforms how we can continue to evolve our tactics to ensure that terrorists are not exploiting our platforms. I do think the same approach makes sense in regulation. We do believe regulation has a critical role to raise the bar of safety for all of us, but it's best when we have the opportunity to talk with governments about what it means to identify and focus on the highest risks. We talk about this as risk proportional legislation and regulation. That is critical, but it only comes from an informed dialogue between the public and private sectors.
Sure. Barbara, may I have your take? I mean, what's your approach to collaborating with governments? Your equipment is some of the most critical infrastructure all around the world. It's not easy, is it, to bring everybody into one room and get them to, you know, sort of do more than just be a talking shop?
Yeah, it needs a lot of persistence and patience. So we went through this with the Cyber Resilience Act in Europe. Sometimes also the players are changing on the other side. And it needs a lot of, let's say, efforts from our side in the industry to really put it on a level that it's simple enough to be understood. I think we as an industry in the OT part have for a long time underestimated that we are communicating far too complicated about the topic. And specifically in the Cyber Resilience Act, we could have done a better job altogether to explain the politicians what is feasible, what is not feasible, what is effective, what is not effective. So from my point of view, we have a duty as an industry to become easier to talk with, and I think the governments have a bit more the duty to listen to us, and not only to the lobbyists from all the other areas, but specifically the industry needs to speak up better and needs to be better listened to.
Sure. I'm conscious of time, but I think a lot of people in the audience would like to know, you know, that expression that comes up at each time we discuss cybersecurity. How do you future-proof it? How do you secure? There is no such thing that is 100% secure. You always prepare for the, you always prepare for the worst and hope for the best, or however the expression goes. So, how do we go on this pathway of at least not making it 100% future-proof, but somewhat 99% future-proof? So I'll start with you, Courtney.
The billion-dollar question. A couple thoughts. I do think we've talked a lot about building the culture up from within our organizations, but I do think these emerging technologies really help us in important ways. If we think about the power of AI and machine learning to truly understand all the data points that can contribute to potential risks and vulnerabilities in the both physical and cyber world, the convergence of the two, the power to really look at that data critically and understand how to build more resilient systems, that is evolving by the minute right now with the power of AI and ML. It does require having some honest conversations about making those investments to think about that in a continual threat monitoring system. We really are operating in an adversarial space. The bad actors are evolving their tactics daily. What does it mean to get ahead of that? And the way that we think about that is understand the data, et cetera. I will go back to one core theme that we've said, though, and that is putting the human at the center of all of this.
Right.
That human-center understanding, in addition to everything we've shared and talked about, building a speak-up culture to ensure that every person in an organization understands that's not right. We've learned from the simple safety things in airports. Let's be perfectly honest. We understand that speak-up culture there. How do we educate our entire teams to understand when something doesn't look right, speak up, share, so we can learn together at our core? Technology can help then take that data analysis to the next level, but let's build the culture.
Barbara, from your perspective, Courtney mentions honest conversations. Honest conversation is in finding a secure Alamo. So from an OT perspective, how do these honest conversations take shape?
You really have to be on top of the curve regarding cybersecurity. As you said, it's evolving. So maybe as a benchmark, 5-6 years ago, we spent 5% of our R&D budget on cybersecurity to make our products cyber safe. Today, it's 16 to 20%. So it really gets more and more acceleration. And that means you really need to be on top of the curve, educating your people, and again, that you speak up when you see things which are not good. We had tough discussions within the company, even stopping a product to sell it, because we were of the opinion it's not safe enough anymore. And we turned it around. So speaking up is a clear, important element, and using the newest technology. However, you also have to see we are a leader in process safety. So a lot of critical systems, specifically when we talk about energy, chemicals, are protected with our system. It's called Triconix. And whenever we want to do changes to newer technology, it's a big step of evolution. So there is also certain conservatism on the other side, which gives the feeling of being safe in that sense. But I would say staying ahead of the curve, really be honest to pinpoint on things which are not going well is key here.
Sure. I think it's a burning question. It often surfaces in the media. I'm not a technologist. I'm an economist by background. You two are the technologists here. But does it beg the question, based on what we've discussed in the last sort of 20 or so minutes, is cybersecurity the next big investment boom from your perspective? And Courtney, if I may start with you. And could you put a figure to it? Because they've learned
the boom is already here. The boom is already here from my point of view.
I was going to say, I think you eloquently stated, I think it's already here. I think across industries, companies are understanding what does it mean to change their budgeting to truly invest in cybersecurity. We see this in airports around the world, to manufacturing plants around the world, to our government agencies. There is an understanding that every digital door is a potential vulnerability, and you need to build that safeguards. I think the truth of the matter is technology industry has a responsibility to do security first in how we build our products, to be a good partner, to share where we see vulnerabilities with our customers. But at the end of the day, I think we do see the boom right now, and we are going to see that as the understanding every digital door and the emergence of the Internet of Things and the industrial Internet of Things will continue to accelerate it.
Sure. Barbara, to quote the head of MI6, you always need to be ahead of the game.
Correct.
The bad guy only has to be lucky once. So that in itself is a selling point to clients.
You know, usually we don't talk about it too much. You become the next target. So, so that's why I don't like to talk about it too much.
Fair enough. Ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of our fireside chat. I wish we could have continued. It's such a vast topic, but I'd like to thank Barbara and Courtney for their invaluable insight, and a round of applause for their contributions.